Snow fell heavily on Christmas Eve, blanketing the city in a hushed silence. Expensive cars rolled past glowing store windows where families hurried in and out, their arms filled with brightly wrapped gifts. But amidst the cheer and light, there was one corner where Christmas had no magic, just cold, hunger, and loneliness. It was here, behind a row of overflowing trash bins, that Ethan Carter, one of the city's most powerful CEOs, noticed something that made him stop in his tracks. He was on his way home from a late board meeting, frustrated that once again, he would spend Christmas with no one but his 7-year-old son asleep at home and a mountain of unfinished work. But when his headlights caught a small figure curled against the trash, he slammed on the brakes, his chest tightening. He stepped out, the freezing wind biting his skin, and slowly approached. There, shivering under a thin, torn blanket, was a little girl, no older than 6. Her hair was tangled, her cheeks flushed from the cold, and her tiny arms clutched a broken doll as if it were her only treasure. Ethan's throat tightened. She looked so fragile, so lost, so much like his own son when he slept peacefully in his warm bed. He knelt down, speaking softly, "Sweetheart, what are you doing here?" The girl stirred, her big brown eyes blinking open in fear. She flinched as if expecting him to hurt her. "Please don't take me back," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "I wasn't stealing, I was cold." Ethan's heart cracked. He could see she hadn't eaten in days. Without thinking, he slipped off his coat and wrapped it around her tiny shoulders. "You're safe," he said firmly. "I'm not here to hurt you." He carried her to his car, her small frame weighing almost nothing in his arms. On the drive to his mansion, Ethan couldn't shake the unease. Who was she? Why was she alone on Christmas Eve? His son, Liam, woke as they entered the warm house, rubbing his eyes. When he saw the girl, his face lit up with curiosity instead of fear. "Dad, who is she?" Ethan hesitated but finally said, "She's someone who needs us tonight." Liam smiled and held out his hand. "Then she can have Christmas with us." As the fire roared in the fireplace, the little girl sat cautiously on the couch, too overwhelmed to eat the cookies placed in front of her. Finally, Ethan coaxed her gently, and she began nibbling, tears filling her eyes. "What's your name?" he asked. "Sophie," she whispered. "Where's your family, Sophie?" Her lips trembled before she spoke. "Mama, she got sick. She never woke up, and then, they took me to a house where people shouted all the time. I ran away. I didn't know where to go." Her tiny voice broke on the last words, and Ethan felt a lump rise in his throat. For a man who built his empire by making ruthless decisions, Ethan suddenly felt powerless. He had been so consumed with work after his wife's death that he often forgot to see the pain in his own son's eyes. Hearing Sophie's story was like being slapped awake. He realized he couldn't just return her to a broken system that had failed her. That night, after tucking both children into bed, he sat by the fire and thought of his late wife, remembering how she used to say, "Ethan, love is the only empire worth building." For the first time in years, he let himself cry. The following days weren't easy. Social services came knocking, and Ethan faced endless questions about whether he was fit to keep Sophie. His board of directors grumbled when he took time off work. Liam's teachers raised eyebrows when Sophie started accompanying them. Yet, Ethan found himself fighting battles he never imagined, because when he looked at Sophie, he no longer saw a stranger. He saw his daughter. He saw family. There were nights Sophie woke screaming from nightmares, convinced someone would take her away again. Ethan would sit by her bed for hours, holding her hand until she slept peacefully. Liam, once lonely and quiet, began to blossom with Sophie by his side, laughing, sharing toys, even insisting she share his room so she wouldn't be scared. Slowly, the three of them began to heal each other's wounds. Months passed, and on the anniversary of that cold Christmas Eve, Ethan stood in the courtroom, his hands trembling. The judge looked at him over her glasses. "Mr. Carter, do you truly believe you can provide this child with the love and stability she needs?" Ethan swallowed hard, then turned to Sophie, who clutched his hand tightly, her wide eyes full of fear. "Your Honor," he said, his voice breaking, "I may be a CEO, but in this moment, I'm just a father. I've already lost one woman I loved. I won't lose this little girl too. She is my daughter, whether blood says so or not." The gavel struck, and the adoption was granted. Sophie ran into his arms, sobbing into his chest. Liam hugged them both, his little voice ringing out, "Now we're a family forever." And for the first time since his wife's death, Ethan felt whole again. That Christmas, their home was filled with laughter, warmth, and the smell of cookies baking in the oven. Sophie hung her stocking next to Liam's, her name written proudly in glitter. As snow fell outside, Ethan whispered to himself, "This is the empire worth building." The story ends with a powerful reminder. Sometimes the greatest wealth isn't in money, but in the love we give and the family we choose.